going to look at how moving our bodies in different ways will allow us to create different kinds of characters. If we were all just exactly the same on the stage, it wouldn't be very exciting for the audience. When we start looking at creating a character, we have to think of everything about them. We have to look at the script and find out different keys that might indicate what that character will be like. But that comes with more than just words. That comes from our bodies and how we can express and move. Theatre is so wonderful when we can be something that we are totally not. So we find a different speed, a different motion to really bring a character to life. And we're going to do that today with a very simple technique. We're going to use a needle and a thread. Not a real needle and a thread. We are just going to use an imaginary needle and thread. And what we're going to do is we are going to stick that all the way through our nose. And I'd like you to just imagine that your nose is now constantly being pulled by the thread from our needle. And what we're going to do is we're going to use that to lead us in our walk. I'm going to see how it changes the way we hold our body and the way we walk. So by pulling our nose up high, we'll walk around our room or our space, whatever you have there. Try not to walk into any cabinets and break anything. Now I wonder what kind of character that might leave us with. Maybe somebody very regal, very high up, like a king or a queen. Whatever we use that nose nicely high for. So now we're going to move that needle, we're going to stick it through our chin. And we're going to bring our chin forward on that thread and see what that does to our body shape. And see how we move differently by only using our chin to walk about. Already you can see that my voice seems to have changed slightly, and already I'm feeling a bit like maybe I'm a bit older character. Maybe if I use my needle and thread through these knees, I'd walk a bit differently like this. Oh, yes, hello everybody. Thank you so much for coming. It's wonderful to be here. Needle and thread. So we start exploring with our bodies. We might move with our shoulders. We might move with our hips. Maybe we could be a rapper, yeah, swag man. We might be really cool with our walk, yeah, catwalk model style. We find our body moves in certain ways that brings that character to life. One of the characters I really love in theatre is Puck from A Midsummer Night's Dream. Puck is a fairy from the forest, a magical sprite. And Puck is always moving with different kind of body movements. It's by exploring what that movement is that allows that character to really come to life. I'd like you to spend some time playing with different movement, being led around the room one by one. What does it look like? What does it feel like? And then start combining them. Maybe you have a chin and a hip. Maybe you have a forehead and knees. All of these different combinations will allow you to create wonderful, exciting, different characters. And that's the key to theatre. Being different, allowing yourself and your expression to really bring something new to life. We'll see you very soon. Hey everybody, today we are going to look at using our voices and how we can use our body to change the way we talk. So again, when we're making characters, when we're being a one-person show where you might need to play several different characters all at once to really tell that story, we're going to find a simple technique to really change your character straight away. It's often so hard. I do a lot of touring theatre where I'll play more than one character, and it's awful if I come back on moving differently and forget myself and I speak exactly the same as I've been speaking. I'm not a different character. I need to be able to go from one person straight away into somebody else, because that's how all of a sudden the audience see a different character, because I still look very much the same. I might have a different hat on. So we're going to look at where those voices come from in our body to enable us to be different characters instantly when we don't have the luxury of big costume changes and everything else. Again, so that you guys from home can make your shows and invite different characters in throughout the show. So first of all, I'm going to ask you just to get your hands and place them down here, right low in your stomach. Don't pat too hard if you've only just had breakfast. Hold your hands down here in the bottom of your stomach. And I want you to take a big deep breath all the way in and down. Really push that out. And we're going to use this voice, this area. We're really going to speak from here. We're not going to speak from up here. We're going to use our minds and we're going to think to ourselves, I am speaking out of this part of my body only. And it's going to make us a lot deeper. 1, 2, 3. Hello! My name is the Ogre. Ha 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 ha! Or Father Christmas, whichever one you choose. So we speak with a deeper tone to our voice by thinking constantly, I'm speaking from this part of my stomach. Maybe it's a place to use when I'm playing a much older character than I am. Maybe it's good for Shakespeare. Darlings. Now, we're going to move that voice up. We're going to move it to this part, our chest. And this is often a great place to start for if you're wanting to create a character perhaps of a different sex to you. So if you're wanting to be perhaps more feminine voice, we can pull that into this area here, our chest. So again, take a deep breath in, but this time don't pull it all the way down to here. Pull the breath to your chest and think constantly where you are speaking from. 1, 2, 3. Hello, I am Paul, and I'm speaking differently here to when I speak down here. Differently here to down here. Great. So let's take that up. Sometimes we have to play characters that are a lot younger than us. Or just we want to find that different style of voice. Maybe for a fairy kind of character. Those people. And we take that all the way up to the top of our head. I know this sounds really strange, but by thinking about where we are speaking from, we're able to really change that voice pattern. So hands on heads up here, breath in again, and really think that you are speaking only from the top of your brain with a 1, 2, 3.
Hello, my name's Paul, and I'm speaking from the top of my head. It really does make me sound a lot higher pitched. Maybe I could play a really young character, or maybe I could be some kind of cool voice sprite.
Great, well done guys. Just changing where we are talking from.
We might talk from here, and by talking from here again we might play a young character. In fact, let's do that. Let's use some fairy tale nursery rhyme characters for this part.
Let us be the king of the entire realm. No, let us be the queen. The queen is the true ruler.
No, Mama. I think you'll find it is I, the prince. Oh, you are all so silly. It is actually me, the princess. I think you'll find you're all very silly. It is, of course, I, the witch, who rules.
Play around with where you speak from. Of course, you can throw accents on, you can tighten vocal cords and things like that, but you have to always be careful not to damage things here. The first thing people do when they try to do a high-pitched voice is use this, and they go really squeaky, and then that is damaging. And believe you me, when you're doing a theatre show night after night after night, you can't afford to hurt your vocals. Please give it a go. I know it sounds a bit oddball, but trust me, if you put your thoughts into where you are speaking, you really can change the pitch of your voice without ever using here. Today we're going to look at how emotion inside our bodies, thoughts inside our mind, will change our body's actions and therefore give our audience something to interpret, something far more than the narrative of the story. When we're on a big stage, it's so interesting when actors are doing something quietly in the background and the body tension and rhythm changes to display something else. It makes our inquisitive minds go, what's happening with that character? It's a simple technique, but one we so often forget in theatre. So I'm going to ask you to do something very simple. I'm going to ask you just to get a bowl, an imaginary bowl, and I'm going to ask you to get a whisk. And we're just going to stir our bowl. And I want you to just stir that as if you normally would, because truth in theatre is key. Just be truthful. How would you normally whisk your bowl, your mix inside making your cake? Perfect. Now I want us to start doing that motion while we're thinking about something that makes us really angry. Now, let's start thinking about something that makes us really happy. And maybe something that makes us really sad. You're still just making your cake, but this time you're thinking something different. And we are able to use our thoughts in the thoughts of our audience. We never have to say a word. It might be that in a particular moment, in a particular scene, we go through a variety of those emotions, and that creates a real interest to the audience. They start seeing something happening and they start telling their own story, and that in theatre is absolute gold. Within just a few simple thoughts and movement changes, we can start telling stories about our character without going as far as saying lots and lots of the script. Keep those emotions inside, keep those thoughts inside. Think about what you are wanting to express. Whatever you are doing in that scene really tells a story. Again. Today we're going to look at how we exaggerate. Now, exaggerating in normal circumstances isn't always the best thing to do, but in theatre it's essential. It's a way to create stories that are so much bigger and so much more interesting than perhaps what is normally there. And it's a way for you guys who might be stuck in through lockdown again, or not able to go out and about and do as many things as you normally would, to really get to the core of that story that you want to tell, how you are really feeling. If I just simply went, I'm just a bit sad because I'm locked in, we wouldn't have a story, we wouldn't have a show. But if I thought about that and exaggerated as much of it as I could, it becomes something more dramatic, something more impactful to our audience. For example, today I was really hungry. That's all. So today I was so hungry. It's like I haven't eaten for about 3 weeks. There was no food in the cupboards at all. There was absolutely nothing there. No food. I hadn't seen a crisp for about a year. So I decided I would go to the cake shop. And at the cake shop I would buy the best and the biggest cake that they had ever sold me. The cake shop though was thousands of miles away. It's not at all, it's about a mile. It's thousands of miles away, the cake shop that I would have to go to. And I went outside and my bike My bike had been broken up into tiny little pieces. So I had to walk. So I walked and I walked and I walked thousands upon thousands of miles. That is how desperate I was to get a cake. And I got to the cake shop and there was an enormous queue. It went on for miles and miles. There was only about 2 people in there. No, there was hundreds of people in there. But I waited and I stood in that queue for hours. No, for days. I waited for days and days and days to get to the front of the queue. And then when I did, I looked around. And there was hundreds upon hundreds of cakes. The biggest, brightest, most creamiest cakes that I had ever seen. Cakes everywhere. Which one would I choose? So, I dialed. Beep, 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 and I got through to the Martian cake gods. What would be the best cake for me to eat when I haven't eaten for about 14 weeks? Really? Oh, okay. I'll have 1 cream eclair, please. Bang. We took a simple story of being hungry and needing a cake, and we exaggerated everything around it. And by exaggerating everything around it, we find new stories. We find new layers to the story that we're telling. Instead of just being hungry, we can start thinking and talking about the sadness that we have about how hungry we are, what that's done to us, or maybe the anger that it's brought because we didn't have any food in the cupboards. It's about taking from the tiny, tiny element and creating and exaggerating much, much more. And while we're doing that, if we throw in the what if word, what if when we got to the cake shop there was a queue? What if when we got to the cake shop it was a queue of hungry, rabid dogs? What if and so on. Exaggerate those narrations, exaggerate the story that you want to tell. A lot of it you'll throw in the bin, but the stuff that lands and stays there will create the best story that you can tell, and you'll really be able to add your voice. So I'd like you guys to do exactly that. I want you to find just one sentence, one simple statement about something you're feeling, something you're thinking. Might be, I would like to have lasagna for dinner. And then from that one sentence, I want you to start exaggerating off each part of it until you've pulled a whole piece of paper together with a whole story of your lasagna that night. So, we have exaggerated storylines. We've exaggerated the narration and the words of our script. We've gone from something very simple, I want a cake, to a whole story about this cake, exaggerating every single element as we went along. We're now going to exaggerate with our voice. We're going to see how by exaggerating the things we say, we'll change the tone of the delivery and the way it appears to our audience. I'm going to use a tongue twister, and it's unique New York. Unique New York. Unique New York. Unique New York. Great little exercise to warm up, by the way, before you do anything theatre-wise. Gets that voice and those lips really moving for when you're saying those words. Unique New York. So what we're going to do is very simple. We're just going to stand or sit, whatever's comfortable for you in your environment. And I'm going to ask you just to say those words, just very normally. Unique New York. Unique New York. Unique New York. Unique New York. Great. But let's see what happens when we start exaggerating. Maybe we exaggerate unique, new, and York. Maybe we exaggerate just unique, just new, or just York. Maybe we exaggerate with our body at the same time. Let's give that a go. Unique New York. Unique New York. Unique New York. Try the new. Unique New York. Unique New York. Try the York. Unique New York. Unique New York! Try all three. Unique New York! 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 Great. By exaggerating and playing with just that simple, unique New York, we can find new elements. And to our character, thinking about our body tensions and our movements from before, what would that character be? We did the needle and thread. And the knees. Maybe that's something that he would do. Maybe what's important to him about unique New York is the new part. Oh yes, I travelled down to that unique new York. It was a wonderful place. It was so unique. Oh yes. Oh, what it's like to be in unique New York. Makes me so happy. Exaggerate. Find ways to express those words, moving the body to make it sound something really, really more exciting than it is. All depends on what happens before and what happens after you deliver that line. Find what would work. Play around with it. We can often get too set on the very, very set structured thing. It's about freedom. Break out of it. Play with it. One of my favourite places to be is the rehearsal room. In there I can really try these different ways. When I direct actors, I'll say, great, but really go for that last word. Explode on that stage. Because by doing that, there's a reason. There's always a reason. And as an audience, I'm now wondering what that reason is. Why is New York so exciting? Hi everybody. So we've looked at exaggerating narrative, storyline. We've looked at exaggerating speech and how we deliver the words, including the movement. Now we're going to look at exaggerating movement itself, especially for physical theatre. We want you to really be able to express yourself. We want you to know that there's no right or wrong in theatre. There's no right or wrong with how you express an emotion, what you want to say. And exaggeration is a great way to start finding that. We can often be really reserved and nervous about what we're doing. But by allowing ourselves to exaggerate, we find somewhere on that chart the part that really means something to us and what really works in the show or the story or the narrative that we're trying to get across. So we're just going to do very simple stuff. We're just going to walk as best you can, depending on your space at home. Again, don't break any expensive vases. Sorry, love. We're really just going to walk normally from one place to the other. So just walk as you normally would. Whatever your walk is. No right or wrong way of doing that either. This time though, let's just exaggerate that. Let's just pull something into the bottom half of our body and the top with our arms. Exaggerate that. While we're doing that, we might have just found a new character. We might have found a new way to express a different emotion. Maybe we exaggerate our walk differently. What about exaggerating each tiny part of us? It's amazing how interesting small things can be on a stage. They're exaggerated. My hand normally opens and closes like that. What if it exaggerates that movement? Changing the speed and the tone to that exaggeration. Making everything that little bit more than it normally would do. It creates a presence, it creates an interest to what the actor is trying to express. Now, I'm not asking you to be big hands and big over the top. That's called overplaying it. I'm asking you to try, when you're practicing and moving about, to find how much further you can go with something. And once you've gone somewhere, feel it. Did it feel right or did it feel too much? And then you can work the exaggeration scale to really fit into what you're trying to play with. And you'll find that your body can do all sorts of different things that you can put meaning to and feeling. If I want to express my anger, I can express it by being humorous. But can I also reverse my exaggeration? Can I take it more inwardly? Am I still as angry? Does it still tell my audience without words what I'm feeling? Play around with that exaggeration scale. Find what hits the moment that you want to deliver, the emotion that you want to express, and you'll really be selling audiences a fabulous story, often without words. Everybody, we are today going to talk about some pacing. Sorry about that. Hi everyone, today we're going to talk about some pacing. Now in our workshop we looked at body tension and rhythm, about how our bodies can move and how that change and move will change different parts of us and how it will affect what our character is doing and saying, and those messages without the words. But of course, as I keep saying, theatre isn't just about the physical movement. We can do a lot without it, but we are going to use words sometimes. We are going to speak. So we can use the same process to change the way that character talks. You can create a complete character way of working by just using that tone scale. We can also use it to change the delivery within a sentence. So I'm going to just remind you of those numbers. We have 0 is neutral. So it's my normal speaking voice when we're talking about voice. Obviously in our previous, we were neutral, which meant our engines were running. We were ready. Number 1 with our body was slow motion. And the same applies with voice. Slow motion. We might be able to walk just as normal and walk with the voice being slow motion. Number 2 is slow. Slow talking very slowly. Maybe a sloth character would be great, especially if you do voiceover stuff. You can do that at home, and if you want to make great animations. What if a sloth character was working in a library and it was just that, hello, my name is the sloth. How can I? You get the picture. You'll be there all day. Number 3 then is our normal speaking voice. So we're talking normally, we're just talking our words as we normally would. No change, not speed or slow. Number 5 is fast. So we're suddenly going to speak a lot faster than we really would. And what can happen in that is it might be that you're really excited about something, you're really excited to tell everybody about this thing that's just happened. It might be good and really good, and I've got to tell you, or it might be really bad and I've really got to tell you. It's all about the pace that we're doing that. And of course then we're going to step that up to number 5, which would be exploding, really exploding with what we're going to tell everybody, exactly what I'm going to tell everybody right now. You're going to hear what I'm going to say and you need to know it. When we find a different scale on all of the speech that we have in a scene, we really be able to tell that story from our vocality. We're not just saying those lines as those lines are said. If we read a script exactly the same the whole way through, it wouldn't really lead us to get too excited. Our job is to look at that script and think to ourselves, what one of our tones, what one of our pace will I use to deliver that line? What's happened before, what's going to happen after I make that speech. It'll help you to really create colour and variety with your delivery, and that'll make you really exciting as a performer. I would like you to find a piece of script online, in a book, or, because you guys are so great, write your own. And as you're going through it, I want you to just play with the pace. It might be that you start the sentence in 1 and then you finish by 5 or something really by the end of it. As the speech goes on, play around with that variety and combination. Also, I want you to do that with a character. Think of a few characters, write them down, and think how would they speak as their normal voice? Would their normal voice always be in the 1 slow motion? Or would their normal voice always be a bit more like this, a bit more like 4, really quite fast, really quite quick, bang, 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 bang? Play around to create new characters just by the speed of their voice. Once you've got the speed of their voice, you'll decide how their body might be, how their movements might be. Because if he's talking like this all the time, he might always be a bit like this, never stopping really, kind of always like that. And if he talks quite slowly, he might always sort of move a bit slowly, not really that excitable. But put that on stage next to someone who's doing the 5 and the 4s, and we have something that's really interesting for our audience. Have a play around.